Morning, guys. You're watching this video today because I cannot be there this morning. I'm going to be a little bit late. My kids have a parent-teacher conference, which is super important. I can't reschedule it, but I'll be in shortly. And so I'm just going to start off the meeting by talking about a few things that are really important for what we do. I think there are a few really key things to being successful, not just day to day, but in the long term. Is that that's what we really need to be thinking about, is long-term success. So I'm just going to go through that with you. Building relationships, I think, is the number one most important thing. You got to keep that in your mind. Building those relationships is what's going to keep you successful down the road. Your follow-up and time management is the next thing that's going to keep you really successful long term. If you're making sure that every little bit of your day is filled up with something that's moving you forward, then that's really important. Your product knowledge and your knowledge as far as leasing and purchasing and things like that, being able to answer those questions is really important. And then your perseverance and your creativity are super, super important. So I'm just going to talk about a few of these things real quick, okay? All right, so selling is all about building relationships. Those folks that you build relationships, they talk about you with their friends because you're their car person. They talk about you with their family because you're their car person. And if you genuinely care about that person, then they're naturally going to buy from you, and they're naturally going to recommend you to their friends. So building that relationship is so important. Oftentimes a customer will look at you and they'll really think, and this is what I was told at the interview when I first started working there, is, does this person care about me? And can I trust them? So if you feel like your customer can look at you and answer yes to both of those questions, then you've got yourself a lifelong customer there. And the way I came up with this, actually, the reason why I kind of started thinking about this and why I wanted to present this to y'all today is that I was at the gym the other day and I ran into one of our good customers, and he's been buying cars there for a long time. He said he's bought 7 cars from us. And he's actually a real estate agent. His name is Bill Brown. And that was the first thing he talked about. We just were chatting a little bit about, what we do for work, we sell and all that. And that was the number one thing he said was, I just built relationships. And that's what really made me successful. That's what he said. He just went on to say how that naturally built his future. And he went on to say, it's not about the money. It's not about like this sale. I have to have this one because that's going to get me paid. And It's not about that. It's about the long term. So we need to really think long term. As I thought about that, it rang true for me, for sure, because in my third year selling cars, I really I had so much coming at me from repeat and referral business that I just naturally made every single month better, easier. I had 6 to 12 referrals each month, and that was because I was able to, build those relationships. And when those folks came back to see me, they knew that, I cared about them and they trusted me. So really something that just rang fully true to me, and something that we all need to think about moving forward with our customers, not only for ourselves, but for our company, What's the easiest way to do this? That's what it also made me think about. How do I convey these things to my customers? How can we do that? And for me, I just went back. I just said, how was I able to do that? So for me, it was about so sometimes I would feel really stressful, I have to sell a car today. I have to sell a car today. often that would actually ruin things. Like just that feeling like I had to sell something ruin things. So what I would do is I would take that completely out of the equation. Forget about selling them a car completely. And loosen up and just give the customer what they came looking for and advise them and give them as much information as I possibly could and forget about it. And when the customer came in, and we all know they come in and they have like this high wall up there, understand that wall is not because of me. It's just because that's kind of the industry, and we're selling things. It doesn't matter what you sell. The customer knows that you're trying to get their money, so naturally that wall is just going to be really high. So don't take it personal. And then by the time you knock that wall down, there comes a relationship. You and yourself will feel way, way better about the person across from you. They'll feel way better about you. And then the next thing you know, you're selling them a car. And the next thing you know, they are sending their friend in to buy a car, their family member. So knock that wall down, create the relationship, and build something that's going to be sustainable for your future. Think about the long term, not the short term. So that was his advice to me. And that guy, Bill Brown, he's been a real estate agent in the Upper Valley for the last 27 years. So, I mean, that's just from somebody who's been doing it for 30 years, what does he know? So the next thing was follow up and time management. The next thing that's just super important in my eyes is actually just following up with your customers as hard as you can. It can be really difficult sometimes because we get beat up a little bit, we get drilled into the ground, and making those phone calls can be a little bit harder. But we need to work smarter and harder. So take advantage of the times that you might feel a little bit more sluggish. I feel it too. It happens all the time. I might be using that time to send emails. I'm like just sending as many emails as I possibly can because I know that's where it's going to be. That's where I'm going to be most effective at that time. And then the next thing is when I'm feeling that high energy time, that's when I'm on the phone. I'm standing up at my desk, and you guys have heard me preach that 1,000 times before. Stand up, it opens up your vocal cords, you just feel more enthusiastic, and you're just more effective that way. So stand up, make as many phone calls as you can, especially during those high energy times. And then the working smarter part of it, also I had this idea, and I'm thinking like, okay, if this 4-day work week is going to work as a salesperson, what should we be doing to maximize our time? So again, yes, knowing like how I'm feeling and what's going to be the most effective for how I'm feeling, and okay, I'm going to send a lot of emails now, I'm going to send a lot of phone calls at this time or whatnot, but working smarter, my idea would be, okay, so let's create a video giving our customers something that they're actually going to open up and watch, not read, because they already know it's a template. As soon as they open up, they're like, okay, I've seen this one 1,000 times before. I think, geez, you sent me, are you still in the market, like 5 emails in a row? You should understand by now I'm not any longer in the market. So instead of sending that silly email template, which they know is a template, go and make a lease video and send it to all your lease customers. Before you leave at the end of the night, just say, hey, I'm going to make a quick lease video, and tomorrow when I come into work, I'm going to send that to all my lease customers. And create a template for the lease video, which is really simple. Hi, this is Bill from White River Toyota. Just so you know, you have your leases coming up within the next 6 months. I'm here to answer any of your questions, address any of your concerns, and go over all of your options. When might be a good time to come in? Please watch this video. And you can literally take one email, type some of that in there, add the link, and then copy and paste that into all the people that you want to send it to. It'll take no time at all. And then do that for your revenue radar, your fresh ups, your internet, your phone up. That's the most effective way to do it. But do it individually as well. We talk about sending a follow-up video, which is great. You can do that too. But if we do it individually, I think it just would be a little bit more effective. So that's my little bit on working smarter, not harder. It's possible. And if you need help figuring out how to do that, just come to me and I can show you how easy it is. So there's that piece. Next thing is, go back, I got a lot of notes here. So product knowledge and buying knowledge. So my piece on product knowledge is I think just everybody learns a lot differently, and I think that while I was selling cars, I realized that I wasn't going to be as good as Gage at retaining the knowledge. It just didn't work for me, right? So I had to come up with ways where, okay, what's going to be effective in selling and how am I going to retain it? So what I started doing worked really well for me was I took a source book and I just took it with me wherever I went. So if I was just going to go show a Corolla, that's what I brought with me. I brought my source book. The customer had a question, I answered the question. And before you know it, I didn't have to have the source book anymore. And that just worked really well for me. But I knew ahead of time, if I sit there and read all this stuff, I'm not going to retain it. So just know what your strength is and use it. And if you learn the other way, by all means, take as much time, spend a little bit of your time during the day coming up with, a few minutes just to sit down and read that stuff. Open eShowroom, go through that stuff, actually read it. So when you get in front of that customer that you're trying to build a relationship for, a long-lasting future, and you sell them lots of cars, you can answer their questions because they're going to respect you more. The second piece of product to your knowledge is your leasing and buying knowledge. I mean, if we can't answer their questions, then we don't gain their respect. If they have a complicated question on leasing and we can't answer it, well, then they're probably not going to lease, right? And if leasing is the only way you can get into their budget, then we've just blown the sale, right? So understanding what's best for the customer, selling from a consultative perspective. It's easiest to sell when you get into the consultative perspective because they just trust everything that you say. And those were always the most gratifying things for me. And again, understanding how you're going to retain that knowledge best. I think the best way that I learned to lease or to sell a lease was exercising it. So I would talk about leasing with family members. I would talk about leasing with, my wife. I would talk about leasing with customers who weren't going to lease even. I wouldn't push them into leasing, but I would just give them what I knew. And that would kind of solidify my knowledge. And I would just say, hey, it might not be for you, but just so you know, this is how it works. And here are the benefits, here are the disadvantages, and just give them the knowledge. So they're going to respect you more for that anyway, for knowing. Okay, so the last thing is perseverance and creativity. And I think that this is where the job was most fun for me. I don't know how many customers would say, man, I didn't think I was going to buy a car. And that was because they told me no so many times, and I would just keep coming back with reasons as to why they should buy a car, even if it's the price. Go ask John Elliott how many times I just came back to him and I was like, hey, John, the car, I'm not going to sell it at this price, and and just kept pushing him. And, I just knew that was what I needed to do to get the customer to buy it. I was pretty damn sure that, the customer was not bought in at that number. And, I probably didn't build enough value or whatever the case is, but I just kept pushing. And I kept pushing the customer, and I kept pushing, John or whoever that was working the deal with me. I just kept pushing both sides to make it happen. And that means so you have to persevere through that, and you have to get creative with it, so you might tell a customer, hey, this is my, the best price, and but then you got to come up with a way to tell them hey, I got you some more money. And that comes from, you know, guidance from the desk as well, from us helping you sort of through that and come up with those ways of getting through those walls. But perseverance and creativity. If you hear no from a customer, it's just a buying signal. It's just like, it's not like they're saying no. It's kind of like, you haven't given me enough reasons yet to buy, so what have you got now? You know, how else can you help me? What else is in it for me? So when you hear that, just get tough. Find ways to come up with a reason to give them a better price, or whatever the case is. You know, find a reason to keep pushing the sale along. I can give you a quick example of that. Last night, Kasha and I were working a customer, and we could just tell we were giving her all the options, you know, trying to sway her one direction or the other, you know, whether it was buy or lease. We're just trying to convince her what was best for her. We didn't really care which one. At that point, it was like, okay, it's just, you got to make a decision. And so we just knew that we weren't going to do it. And so I tried a couple things. I said, okay, you know, first it was color was her thing. So I said, all right, yeah, just flip a coin. If it's heads, you get gray. If it's tails, you take white. And I thought, well, hell, I'll just throw it out there and see what she says. And then she says, she just kind of laughed at it and kind of moved on. So that didn't work. So I wasn't getting anywhere there. And then by the end of it, I just said, all right, well, you know, let's just take a credit app. So when you do make that decision, then that'll just make things, you know, a little bit easier for us and for you when you come back to pick up the car. So I'm just gaining a minor commitment, and I'm still pushing the sale a little bit further. So I think between the four of these things that, you know, I've kind of presented here today, these are what should help everybody be a little bit more successful. And I'm happy to help in any way possible. Thank you so much for watching. Hopefully I'm at work by now, and I can be a little bit embarrassed by this video. Thanks for watching. Bye.
Whoa, free boat ride for 3. Now, who should I take? Keeve?
Yes.
And T-Pain.
Cool.
Oh shit! Get your towels ready, it's about to go down! Everybody in the place hit the fucking deck! But stay on your motherfucking toes! We running this, let's go! I'm on a boat! I'm on a boat! Everybody look at me, cause I'm sailing on a boat! I'm on a boat! I'm on a boat! Take a good hard look at the motherfucking boat! I'm on a boat, motherfucker, take a look at me! Straight floating on a boat on the deep blue sea! Bustin' 5-knot, wind whipping out my coat! You can't stop me, motherfucker, cause I'm on a boat! Picture trick, I'm on a boat, bitch! We drinking Santana champ, cause it's so crisp! I got my swim trunks and my flippin' floppies! I'm flipping burgers, you at Kinko straight flipping cabbage! I'm riding on a dolphin, doing flips and shit! The dolphin splashing, getting everybody all wet! But this ain't SeaWorld, this is real as it gets! I'm on a boat, motherfucker, don't you ever forget! I'm on a boat and it's going fast, and I got an nautical theme, pass me the Afghan. I'm the king of the world on a boat like Leo. If you own the show, then you show not me-o. Get the fuck up! This boat is real! Fuck land, I'm on a boat, motherfucker! Fuck trees, I climb buoys, motherfucker! I'm on the deck with my boys, motherfucker! The boat engine man